What's happening, guys? Honky Kong here. Today is Friday, February 14th. Welcome back to United We Stand 734. Today I'm going to do a video and I'm going to discuss the ongoing saga of Jonathan Martin, Richie Incognito, and the Miami Dolphins, okay? We all know the story. I'm not going to rehash everything that happened. It broke, what, 2 or 3 months ago during the regular season. You know, Dolphins players getting harassed, left the team, blah, blah, blah. So like I said, I'm not going to get back into that. But at the time it happened, there wasn't a ton of information coming from Jonathan Martin's side. All we knew was he got, you know, he claimed he got fucked with, he got bullied, finally got fed up, and he left the team, okay? We didn't really hear anything other than that, all right? But we got a lot more from Richie Incognito's side. He did the interview with Jay Glazer, which I will link in the description. It was an excellent interview. And at the time, after watching that interview, I kind of really felt what Incognito was saying. You know, to me, it came off as, oh, this is my boy, this is my bro, I'm just fucking with him, I'm just ribbing him, this is how we do it in the locker room. And that makes sense to me. I understand that. You know, for those of you guys that have ever, you know, played football, been in a locker room, whether it's Little League all the way up through the pros, you know, football locker rooms, you talk shit. You know, you talk shit to each other in them, okay? I mean, when I was in the service, I was in the Army, I was in the infantry unit. That's an all-male unit. Man, every other word out of our mouth when we're talking to our friends was, you're a bitch or you're a faggot. You know, shit on people's birthdays. After we'd all go out and get fucking drunk, we'd, you know, throw the dude down, everybody would jump on him and beat the fuck out of him. You know, it was just what we did. It was, you know, a good time was had by all, except if you're the dude getting beat up, you know. But you know, you kept in mind who hit you the worst. You know, it was never in the face, never in the head. You know, we didn't do any permanent damage. But you got tuned up a little bit. You know, you might have been sore for a couple days, but it was all in good fun. You know, it's how we related to each other. And you know, I feel I can sense a little bit of what Richie Incognito at the time. I felt what he was saying. Going back on my experience, you know, like, okay, this was their locker room, this was their brotherhood. That's how they, you know, that's how they talked to each other. That's how they related. And I got that. So I felt what Richie Incognito said at that time. Okay, so at the time, back then, I was like, man, maybe Jonathan Martin's just, you know, I'm not going to sit up here and call him a bitch or a pussy, nothing like that, but maybe he was just, you know, maybe he's just really mentally weak, you know, maybe he just couldn't take a couple little jokes and he flipped the fuck out and left, you know, maybe he's just being a baby, you know, but I didn't do the video because I wanted to wait till all the information came out, and I'm really glad I have, because my opinion has changed quite drastically. Okay, the Wells report was released, I think it was yesterday or today, and Ted Wells, the guy who did the report, he was the one that basically did all the research onto this, gathered all the information, wrote down all the facts, and his report, there was quite a bit of shocking shit in this report. I'm going to highlight some of the things that stood out to me, okay? First thing that jumped out at me is Jonathan Martin had a history of suffering bullying, okay? He was bullied in middle school. He was bullied in high school. It did not happen in college, but as soon as he got the Dolphins, you know, during his rookie year and his second year, he was bullied very, you know, they fucked with him quite a bit. And he also had depression issues relating from this bullying. As a matter of fact, it was so bad last season, apparently it says at 2 points in 2013, Jonathan Martin considered suicide. He was getting fucked with so bad, he was considering ending his life. You are seriously getting, I mean, that's pretty fucking bad, you know. And they also released some texts that he sent that he sent to his mom, okay? Apparently the offensive lineman had gathered for they rented a yacht, they were all going to go out on the yacht and party. Sounds like a fucking great time, right? Well, not if you're Jonathan Martin, because they're fucking with you so bad. He texts his mom, and this is what he said: "It's never going to change. I got punked again today, like a little bitch, and I never do anything about it." And then he says, "I was sobbing in the rented yacht bathroom." That is really fucked up, man. If you're texting your mom how bad you got punked and you're in a bathroom crying because your teammates are fucking with you, that's fucking bad. You know, now the 3 Dolphins players, moving on to the Dolphins a little bit, the 3 players primarily involved in this situation are obviously Richie Incognito, guard John Jerry, and center Mike Pouncey. Okay, these are all 3 very good football players. All right, you know, Incognito was a Pro Bowl alternate a couple years ago. Mike Pouncey has the talent to be a perennial Pro Bowler, very good football player, one of the best young centers in the league. And John Jerry he's a solid guard. You know, these are 3 pretty good football players. Okay, but they also seem to be the ones doing most of the harassing. Besides Jonathan Martin, there was also one more unnamed Dolphins offensive lineman who was being harassed by these guys. Okay, and also apparently offensive line coach Jim Turner not only knew what was going on, but in a couple cases he actually participated in some of the, the so-called pranks or the harassment that was being levied on this other player. And one of the things he did was, it kind of sounded funny to me, and obviously they took it, it offended them, but they got like a gay blow-up doll or whatever, and he put it in the dude's locker room. They're like, oh, you're fucking this guy, you fag, whatever. So he kind of jumped in on what he considered to be the fun. Obviously, these other two guys did not consider it to be fun. Incognito and his little band of married men also. Apparently, they went pretty heavily on the racial insults. Okay, many times Jonathan Martin said they called him the N-word. They talked about his sister. They talked about his mom. A lot of the racial assaults came from the other black players. They were like, Incognito's way blacker than you are. You're not even black. You're half black, rich boy. Because Jonathan Martin came from a very privileged upbringing, played his college football at Stanford. So they really gave this dude a hard time, and obviously he was not mentally equipped to cope with it. I don't think that's hard to fucking argue. Incognito and his teammates also harassed. They had a Japanese. The guy was born in Japan, so obviously Japanese-looking dude. He's their assistant trainer. They fucked with him and played a prank on him, like during Pearl Harbor Day. So they're gonna kick his ass, because it was December 7th, obviously the anniversary of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Just shit like that. Obviously, they're taking shit too far. Okay. Another thing that really jumped out at me. Now. No doubt about it, after reading all of these things that Incognito and his friend. As a matter of fact, another thing Incognito did, this one really fucking surprised me. Incognito kept a book, and he called it the Fine Book. Now, the Fine Book was, if you're an offensive lineman and you break any of the, the rules or the codes of being an offensive lineman, they find you money for whatever it may have been. In that book, now, the most famous of all these fines is Jonathan Martin being fined $10,000 because he backed out on an offensive lineman trip to Vegas. Like, you were supposed to go, he backed out, so they fined him quite a bit of money, okay? If I don't want to go on a trip and you tell me I owe you $10,000, I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself in no uncertain terms. I don't give a fuck who you are. You're getting told to go fuck yourself. So, anyways, in this book, one of the entries, Incognito fined himself $200 because he broke Jonathan Martin. So that tells you right there, that's proof Incognito knew he was going too far with his jokes. He knew he was affecting Jonathan Martin's psyche if he put in there that he broke Jonathan Martin. To me, that's plenty of evidence. He knew he was going too far, and he kept it up. And his little piece of shit teammates did the same thing, okay? Now, obviously, most of the blame lies with Incognito and his little crew, okay? Moving on to Jonathan Martin, who, in my opinion, and this is my opinion only, okay, bears quite a bit of responsibility for what happened, simply because he never stuck up for himself. He never stuck up for himself. Did not even attempt to. All he did was finally get so angry and fed up, he just left the fucking team facilities. That's crazy. I don't understand how you are an NFL player. You play arguably the most violent game on the planet, and you play it at its highest level, and you've never been tested in your life? Look, there is a point, and generally it happens for people in fucking, in sometime in school between fucking, 6th grade and your senior in high school. Somebody's going to push you to the point where you can't take it anymore, and you're going to take your fucking fist, and you're going to drive it in their fucking face. You guys are going to have a fist fight. It's going to be over with. This never happened. Jonathan Martin never stuck up for himself. And one of the things that he said, another thing that was published in the Wells Report, and this really jumped out at me. Jonathan Martin said, he sent his dad a text. He said, it happened again today. They called me an N-word to my face. They talked about my sister. I didn't do anything about it because I'm too much of a nice person. He said, I guess that private white high school, conditioning trained me to turn the other cheek. No. Bullshit, Jonathan Martin. That's some straight up bullshit. The high school, the private high school you went to, the private white high school you went to, didn't condition you not to stick up for yourself. You do not have it inside of you to stick up for yourself. You don't have that instinct, that urge when somebody goes too far. You fucking put your dukes up and you guys fight. You don't have that, okay? It's not the high school you went to. It's not your upbringing. Somewhere inside of your body, you don't have the instinct to do that, okay? And it just boggles my mind that a guy like that can make it in the NFL, or make it to the NFL even, to be a top supreme level athlete and not, you know, not have that instinct to where you try to stick up for yourself, you try to end the torment, and he never did it. Now, am I saying he should have went in there and fucking went on some crazy rampage? No. Am I saying he should have fucking walked up to Incognito and said, hey, look, man, this is what's happening. You know, you're fucking with me. Stop it. If he doesn't stop it, to pound him in the face. Fuck yeah. Grab a helmet, cave a motherfucker's face in. See if they still think it's funny to talk shit about your sister after you wrap them upside their fucking face with that helmet. You know what I'm saying? Something, he should have tried to do something. I mean, as fucked up as it sounds to say this, I mean, I personally would never go this route, but fuck, if he had even went to the head coach or the general manager or somebody and explained to him what was happening, tried to get a trade, tried to get out of there, but he never did any of that. He just waited, let it build up, let it build up, let it build up to the point where it's probably ruining his health. He was playing like shit, considering suicide, and he just left the team. I do honestly, even though I assign most of the blame to Incognito and his fucking two sidekicks, obviously, for what they did to this guy, what they did to this kid, Martin. I'm very disappointed that Martin never tried to stick up for himself, okay? And like I said, these are my opinions only. This is just how I personally feel about it. I really wish Martin would have tried to do something. He would have made an attempt to stick up for himself, okay? And then if it got worse, then, you know, leave the team, do whatever, but you should have made that effort, man. You really should have tried to do something about it. Okay, that's all I got, guys. Everybody be safe. You know, any comments on this, man? Anything you guys heard, let me know. Love to hear it. And I'm gonna catch you guys next time. Peace.